Today, we're going to talk about the fields in baseball and cricket and how they compare to each other. I'm Ken Lammers. This is Minor League Matters, and let's get cracking. Okay, so I made a decision I was going to compare cricket and baseball through a series of different things, probably one or two of these shows a week until I run out of things to compare. Uh, and Today we're going to talk about the fields, right? The fields in these two sports are very much different. And here are two of the fields next to each other. The baseball field is the one for the Evansville Otters in Evansville, Indiana. And the cricket field is from Church Street Park in North Carolina. These two fields show you basically what you're looking at as a basic understanding of the fields, right? Baseball is played on a cone, which winnows down to home plate, and cricket is played on a sphere. And I won't say a circle because every time I say a circle, I get corrected, but a sphere or an oval, probably better way to say it, that has in the middle, you see the square part here, is a pitch, which is where the ball is thrown, the batter hits, the runners run back and forth between the wickets to score points. And it doesn't have to be exactly in the center. And anybody who's watched a really used cricket field realizes that there's two or three of these in the middle of the field, and they get shifted between each other because they get burned out. Okay, so now we've seen what they look like generally from above, right? A circle as opposed to a cone. And let's look at what the actual fields look like if you were to draw a diagram of them. Okay, we'll start out with cricket. So here's a cricket field, right? It's obviously an oval. Does not have to be an absolute circle. I've been corrected on this two or three times when I accidentally say circle, but it's round. The pitch is in the middle of the field. It's represented here by that brown area. And from the long end of the pitch, center of the pitch has to be between 65 to 90 yards to the boundary, which is a rope boundary that goes completely around the field. And the entire boundary from one entire line from one side to the other has to be 150 yards at least. Obviously, as I've said already, the pitch can be moved around some in order to make it fair, not have pitching being done on an area that's been destroyed but being played over and over and over again. The pitch can be moved a little bit back and forth, but it has to fall within 65 to 90 yards from the boundary. From the short end of the pitch, if you measure from there, from the center through the short end to the boundary, it has to be between 70 and 90 yards. So it's a fairly basic field. The boundary, which again is generally just a rope, or if you're watching a really highly advertised game, can be, a styrofoam thing or a foam padding thing there with a bunch of ads on it, but basically a rope. From there to where you've got a wall where where you have advertisements, etc., and which demarcates the differentiating, putting the crowds behind the wall and inside the walls in play zone. That's got to be another 10 feet. Now, in shorter versions of cricket, not in test cricket, but in the shorter versions of cricket, which is one day international, where they have 50 overs, which is 300 pitches for each side, or in the very shortened version, the more popular, very shortened version of cricket, which has 20 overs, the T20, has 20 overs, so the game's played in about 3 hours, and that would be 120 pitches for each side, or 120 throws for each side, bowls actually, what they would say. Uh, there is, in those two shorter versions, on the inside around the pitch, and I think at about a 30-yard area, there's a dashed line or something along those lines, which demarcates a difference between an infield and an outfield. And at certain times during play, there can only be so many people out in the outfield, and the rest had to be inside that 30-yard zone. That's your basic cricket field. Here's your basic baseball field. It is, of course, as I said before, a cone. Now, there are different zones. There's the outfield, which is the grassy area out between the infield and the wall. The cone has to go at least from the from the home plate, which is the little base at the very bottom, to the wall in center field, straight line, has to be at least 400 feet. And in reality, this translates into almost all baseball fields only being 400 feet. There used to be ones that were larger, but because it's considered more of a fan thing, you charges up the fan, make them happy. If there's home runs, which means you hit it over the wall and you automatically get points, that 400 feet is the furthest you see just about anywhere anymore. Now, as the cone goes out, you can see that it bulges to the right and to the left. Where that line hits the wall, it has to be at least 325 feet. There are places where they don't make 325 feet, but the way they compensate is by making the wall much, much larger. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a solution. Now, as we move inward, you can see down the right and left lines, there's a line that comes in a V shape, right? The ball has to be hit by a batsman within that line. Otherwise, it is not something that can be scored on. The ball hit outside that line can still be made into an out, but we'll talk about that in another episode. You get down to the infield, the area where there's dirt, mainly a lot of dirt. You end up with 4 bases. Now, there's home plate or home base, which is down at the bottom, and to the right-hand side, as you go up 90 feet, is what's called first base. And from first base to the base that's in the middle of the field is second. That's another 90 feet. And from there to third base, which is the one off to the left side of the field, is another 90 feet. And of course, from third base to home plate is another 90 feet. Obviously, the goal of the game is to put someone to move them through all those bases. That's the goal of the game. And you get points when you get somebody to home base, home plate. Now, as you can see here, unlike cricket, where the bowler in cricket, which would be a pitcher in baseball, the bowler in cricket runs up and puts his foot down in front of a line or on line that's right in front of the wicket and throws the pitch. It's not the way it works in baseball. In baseball, you have this mound of dirt that's 10 inches off the ground in between the 3 bases that people are supposed to run to score. On top of the mound is what has been called, since the beginning of time in baseball, a rubber. But now I think the official term is pitcher's plate because they don't want possible negative connotations from calling it a rubber. What it is a little rectangle up there that is either made out of rubber or plastic or whatever, that the pitcher has to start out his pitch. We throw in the ball, he has to have a foot on that rubber. So that is 60 feet and 6 inches from home plate. And home plate is where the pitcher is supposed to be throwing the ball over home plate. It is uh, it's 60 foot and 6 inches because at one point I think it was 60 feet, and they thought that the pitchers had too much of an advantage, so they moved it back another 6 inches to try to give the batsman uh, more of an advantage. Things that you see here down at the bottom around the bat, you see a square on the left and right hand side of the bat. Unlike cricket, where the batsman can stand pretty much wherever he wants, including directly in front of the wicket, in baseball, the batter has to stand in one of those two batting boxes and stay within it until such time as he hits the ball. If he's outside of that, he's violating the rules. So, and behind it is the little square where the catcher and the umpire stand. The catcher squats. The catcher squats down, catches the ball that's thrown by the pitcher if it's not hit by the batsman, and the umpire is behind him, and the umpire judges whether or not the ball went over the plate and whether it's between the center of the batsman's chest and his knee, right? So that's where they're at. As you compare the two fields, let's move on. I mean, you can get into infinite little extra things here and there to describe, but that's generally what you've got in your two fields. Let's go back to our picture of the two fields here, right? This is the two fields together, and as you compare the two fields, uh, I think you can tell that in general, because of the way it is, um, at least in the shorter version of cricket, T20, uh, or one day internationals that are 50 overs, in the shorter versions of cricket, but cricket is very much an offensive game. It's about how much offense you can score and how whatever the defending team can do to stop you from scoring, right? This is a little bit different in Test cricket. In Test cricket, there's a good argument that the person standing in front of the wicket is playing a defensive game. But in T20 and one day internationals, the shorter versions, it's pretty clear that it's all about offense and the batsman hitting, and he has all that space to work with. Very hard to defend that entire field, even with 11 people instead of 9 like baseball. Very hard to defend, and it makes it much more of an offensive game with the other side trying to plug the dike. Baseball, on the other hand, as you can see, at least in the when you hit it in the anywhere close up, it's pretty easy to catch. There's 9 guys, and 6 of them are in the infield, blocking off pretty much any quarter you might have to hit the ball. And it is, and the 3 guys in the outfield are going to be probably the fastest guys on the team because part of their job is to run along and grab balls that have been hit a long way, right? So in the end, baseball is a more defensive game because you expect the defense to win 95 to 98% of the time in baseball. There'll be a whole bunch of outs, three outs for each team each inning, and it's the unusual, at least in a well played baseball game, is the scoring inning, right? Not the inning where nobody scores. So it is a field that favors defense more than offense, as opposed to cricket, which is a field that favors offense more than defense. And it, of course, affects how things play. Okay, so that was really, really basic. And I hope to fill in some more stuff. Like the next thing you're going to see is the difference between pitchers and bowlers, baseball and cricket. I hope to do one about the difference between batsmen in both sports, fielding in both sports, that sort of thing. But that's for the future. For now, I hope this has been a little bit helpful. If it has been a little bit helpful, or you like what you're seeing around here, hit the subscribe button. If you really like what you're seeing around here, hit the bell wherever that is, so that you get notifications when I put something up. This is a hobby, folks. I am not going to be putting something up every day in the hopes of getting to 1 million gazillion followers and living my life off of YouTube. It's not going to happen. Well, if it happens, thank you, but I don't expect it. So, make sure you hit the notification thing so when I sporadically put something up, you can sporadically watch it. Beyond all that, folks, if you want to message me, you can direct message me on Twitter at Minor League Matters. And furthermore, I want to finish up like I always do. If you got a little bit extra time and you got a little bit extra money, go watch some minor league sports, whether that be professional lacrosse, professional softball, and yes, it exists. I'm going to try to go see one next year. The new cricket league that they're going to try to form up, anything like that. Go watch it, have some fun, and watch minor league sports, and just have a blast, folks. I'll see you later. Ma salama, y'all.